seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, here we go. It is the Monday Club. It is a year since we started all this nonsense. It was a Monday Club on the 6th of December last year. Tonight it's the 5th of December, but I think it's the corresponding year anniversary tonight. Luckily for me, I'm not on my own anymore. However, we have carried on as we kicked off, because right there as the music was playing, my spotlight cable completely snapped. So the wiring's completely gone. I've got an old lamp now staring annoyingly into my face to try and replicate what a ring light was. I put this monstrosity together during the 2-minute intro, so if I look like, I don't know, I'm trying to do some sort of Undertaker promo with some dodgy lighting, then I do apologise. Jonathan Boyce, you join me on the Monday Club. How the devil are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm good. We're coming up towards Christmas, that time of year, Russell, where everyone's purse strings end up slightly lighter. Celtic, have been doing a little bit of spending, a little bit of Christmas shopping, if you like, over the last couple of weeks. Alistair Johnson is the latest recruit, whereas across the city, the rumours are there is no money left to spend on any Christmas presents for the Blue Noses. And sometimes you just have to spare a thought for those less fortunate than you at this time of year. And I'm sure that is something we will be doing a little bit of.
Very good spin there, Jonathan. I like your style. And yes, Celtic have been getting some shopping done. They've also decided they've got maybe a naughty list, Jonathan, you could say, for January, with the likes of Juranovic and potentially Giakoumakis. They were talking about being added to that, although Big Chaos, I think he was born on the naughty step. It's just his style. I like that about him. Yeah, we will be talking about, obviously Celtic's potential signings. And being as naughty as Jonathan intros at the recent media presser, what did you make of that? He was talking about his dinner and his list of priorities, and maybe his Christmas dinner, Jonathan, is even higher up in the list. Who knows? We will get to all that tonight. We will be doing some sudden death as well. It's currently a famous Celtic scoreline, 6-2 to the Boyce against the other Boyce.
Bit like Brazil versus South Korea tonight so far, but unlike the Koreans, I've got a few tricks left up my sleeve. You watch out, I'm coming for you.
I like that, mate. I like that. Right, okay. On top of that, before we get started, as always, it's going to be a case of all that good stuff. And all that good stuff means if you've not joined the 3,076 people who've subscribed to the Bhoycie Bus, hit that subscribe button now. It's completely free. Hit the wee bell as well. Why no? If you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, likes of Belly, Celts on the Hill have, so many others as well. I think we're over to 40 or something like that. Jim Dolan, DJ Gaz, Phil McGinley, which always makes me laugh. Phil, you big legend. But yeah, if you want to become a member, it is completely optional, and you can do so with any sort of funds that the Bhoycie Bus brings in. We, of course, reinvest it. Obviously, we've got subscriptions and all that we need to pay. And then we get a wee bit left over. We go to places like G4 Claim Studio yesterday, Jonathan, and we do a wee studio environment, couple of pods, which was great fun yesterday. It was good to reward everyone and put them in that professional environment. Unfortunately, video editing, though, is not for me. I have lost a day today trying to do it. I don't know how folk do it. I just don't understand it. I'll be completely honest here. I don't get it. I've lost a day of my life. I'm so frustrated with it. It's unbelievable. I think from now on, I'll just stick to doing it from the attic, Jonathan, as it's known by many. Belly comes in. There's £2 more than the blue noses. That is very kind of you. Thank you very much, Belly. We appreciate it. Good evening to the rest of you as well. Welcome aboard the bus, Jonathan. I think that was all that good stuff carried. I'm all over the place, mate. I feel like I've been staring at this screen all night, all day even. Now it is all night. And then that spotlight just breaking there in front of me. I'm like, fucking hell, this is unreal. Anyway, we'll carry on. We will carry on. Right, okay, look at the shadows under my face, man. Genuinely lighting issues. Well, some of them are just age as well. Let's be real. Right, Jonathan, shopping list. It started. The shopping has begun. We have got Kobayashi. We've got Alistair Johnson in the door. One's a free transfer from the well-versed J-League of Ange Postecoglou. That'll be our fifth arrival from the J-League, I believe, since he took over.
Yep.
You know, the record's pretty strong from there. We can all be rest assured that this is a signing that has got Ange's fingerprints all over it. I'm all for that one. Alistair Johnson, it's a wee bit of an unusual league for us to dip our toes into. The MLS comes from a club where a big Victor Wanyama was apparently given a glowing reference to. Again, it seems like the type of signing that you can only imagine and that imagination at Celtic to come up with that one. Seeing as when the recruitment of Peter Lowell recently shows that their other lists tend to be pretty short, Jonathan, and pretty unimaginative. So I'm going to give Ange cleverly the credit, or the likely credit, I should say, for the old Alistair Johnson capture. And do you think that's where it stops, or is this just the beginning?
I think we're not done yet. I think Ange Postecoglou has a massive wish list that he's still yet to fully complete. The rumours are certainly beginning to pick up that there is going to be a striker entering the building in January for Celtic. I think there has to be a striker entering the building in January for Celtic, not just because of the Giakoumakis rumours that he might be on his way out, but I think we both said back in the summer we would have liked to have seen another striker added to the squad. Yep. And I think that was something that perhaps was about the only drawback I would have said of the last window in terms of personnel getting brought in for positions. I think that was one place where we did leave ourselves slightly light. However, it's not really came back and burnt us too much, because for the first half of the season so far, Kyogo and Giakoumakis have both been available and certainly not had prolonged periods where they've both been out. So that has worked in our favour. However, I think Postecoglou will be looking at that and will be thinking, I could do with another body in there up front. I think when he's looking at Giakoumakis and potentially, stalling of his contract for whatever reason going on there, he's maybe feeling even more urgency to get a striker into the building. I think once he gets that striker, and I'm convinced he'll get at least one, I think he might go for two, depending on what happens with the Giakoumakis situation in January. I don't know if he'll be looking at too many other options, but then again, Ange Postecoglou likes to throw a curveball that nobody expects. And I think, Russell, he'll have been watching this World Cup very closely over the last couple of weeks, and it's no coincidence that the last couple of names being linked with moves to Celtic have both featured in the World Cup throughout the campaign. And I think that's something that Postecoglou will have been keeping very close tabs on. And I think he'll be looking to once again exploit markets that Celtic rarely go into. For you, do you think there is going to be further additions outside of a striker? Can you see him possibly looking at any other positions that need strengthened?
Yeah, I mean, we've got to be realistic, Jonathan. I think we did want a striker in the summer. So, yeah, I mean, if there was to be any truth in these rumours that Giakoumakis could be leaving, then it's got to be two. Otherwise, we've weakened the team. Because replacing Giakoumakis' goals with just one striker, that'll need to be one hell of a player we're bringing in. If he were to leave, of course, this is hypothetical. If Giakoumakis is staying, then I still think we need another striker. So, yeah, definitely that's an area we'll need to target. And then again, it comes down to what Ange feels he can improve on. And if that means the odd curveball that people aren't expecting, such as Juranovic out, Alistair Johnston in, a couple extra quid in the bank, but potentially a longer term right back, and one Ange thinks he can improve to a level above that of what Juranovic is at right now, I'm all for that. I don't know. I don't know where else he would look to strengthen. Goalkeeper's going to be looked at some point. I still think we can improve it there, not because Joe Hart's done anything wrong before people get their knickers in interest, just because I think, if it's a position we could be targeting to improve on. He's not done anything wrong, but is there better out there available to Celtic? A club with £30 million in the bank right now, about to enter, the second half of the season. They're 9 points clear, so the likelihood is they're in the Champions League again next year. I think we probably could look to improve that as well. Obviously, I think the argument we were having in the summer often was about there was no need for a third striker because how are they going to get a game with Kyogo and Giakoumakis there? I don't hear anyone saying that about Kobayashi coming in to become a fourth centre back. So I don't know quite how that, a fifth centre back even when you include Welsh.
Welsh, yeah. There'll be 5 centre backs in there unless Welsh goes out in January. Then you're going to be looking at five centre backs for 2 positions. So again, competition there, albeit Jens is only on loan. However, I think he's looked quite solid, to be fair, Jens, when he's played. I mean, it's not perhaps the finished article in the same way Carter Vickers was for us last season. It was a no-brainer to sign up, but I think it's still somebody that Ange Postecoglou will be interested in signing come the summer. I don't think he's done too much wrong, Jens. And I don't know if obviously I'm bringing in this new Japanese player, if that's going to be a case, Russell, that he's now perhaps thinking he's maybe seen enough of Jens to decide that he's maybe not the player for him, because if he was going to bring him in, you'd still have, he'd have to be getting rid of Welsh, because there's no point in having 5 centre halves for 2 positions, I wouldn't think, because there's just no way you can keep everybody happy in that environment. And I think that the bottom line is Stephen Welsh has had opportunities, and I think people are beginning to come to terms with the fact he's probably not going to make it at Celtic. And I wonder if this is either a case of Ange Postecoglou planning ahead and not seeing Welsh as part of the future plans, or is it a case, Russell, that he's seen what some of Jens so far and decided perhaps he's not worth spending whatever it's going to cost, £5-6 million, whatever the price may be, to get him on a permanent in the summer?
Yeah, I think it'd be between 4 and 5, which, again, I don't, and I don't say it loosely like, oh yeah, it's only 4 to 5 million, but I also don't lose sleep over Celtic being involved in those sort of transfer fees. I think it's perfectly realistic for us to be spending that on a player. However, I wonder if Jens has now very much got a 5 month, if you like, trial between now and the end of the season to actually get it, which is fine. And that's the security Celtic have when they do these option to buy loans. If they don't want to do the deal, then they don't, but they've got the first option. It's a win-win for us, really, because if we don't want to take up the offer, we could say no. And if we do want to take up the offer, we get that first option. We have that ring-fenced. So, yeah, I wonder if there's been a change of tune slightly. And maybe there's maybe not necessarily a change of tune. Maybe it's just the reason he came on loan is because they wanted to look at him. And right now, the jury's very much still out. He's got 5 months to resolve that or to rectify that situation. And Celtic are probably pretty relaxed about that, which is fine. With regards to other areas of the park, I mean, Jonathan, the thing is, the strength and depth, I totally agree with Paul Dyatt here. The more good players in the door, the better. You can't have enough good players. One thing I'm concerned about is I hope we don't look like we're being busier than what we are. And it's a bit of a false dawn, like, oh, Celtic have signed 2 players and they're dressing this up as really good news. signing a Canadian right back who can also play centre half, I think, apparently, and a free transfer from Japan, where a 10 million plus Croatian international who's still in the tournament, about to go to the quarters, and your top goal scorer from last season, or league goal scorer for last season, is about to potentially exit as well. I mean, you've got to kind of, this could be getting dressed up a wee bit early. Obviously, the window's not open yet. There's no football on the news, so we're just having hypothetical conversations, really. So it'll be interesting to see how aggressive Celtic really are going to be, and how much the reality is that we're going to be always improving the squad each window, when it might actually be a case of the emperor's new clothes at times, Jonathan, where you can't actually see the improvement. You're just getting told that it's better and it's class, and you're actually thinking, is it though? Is this definitely an improvement? And I wonder, Celtic are very good at that. Celtic are masters of spin, PR, and all that nonsense. They don't want to give out, bad news stories, Jonathan. They want to tell you about Peter Lawwell the same day they want to tell you about Alistair Johnston, for example. Anyone who thinks that's them not cover it or trying to not cover up the story, but obviously not highlight it as much as needed either, or what as much as you would expect either, tells you everything you need to know. So yeah, I wonder if these are two really good feel good vibe stories that we're getting right now. And yes, I'm all for it, and I don't want to be over cynical, but I just wonder if that means what's coming around the corner in the January window might be of a nature that might not be always appealing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting one to kind of look at where Celtic will go in the transfer window. I certainly think, they can sometimes end up just buying like-for-like replacements, and it ends up being a case that they're never really improving the squad, and they certainly do have previous for doing that in recent years, certainly where there's been opportunities there when they've lost a player. And the one that always comes to mind is obviously Kieran Tierney, and then replacing him with Greg Taylor is probably the most galling one, even though albeit Greg Taylor has now came onto a game. But you look at it and you think from Celtic's point of view, if Juranovic is to go in January, which by all accounts that looks like it's almost certain to happen based on the fact they've went out and brought Alistair Johnston in, I think we can all safely say Juranovic will most likely leave in the January window.
Yeah.
You have to wonder, with Juranovic probably going, and we're probably talking somewhere between 10 and 15 million, I think, for me, as to what we're going to get for him. Of course, if he was to put in an outstanding performance, I think it's Brazil-Croatia play in the quarterfinals, so that won't be an easy game for them at all. But if Juranovic was to impress in that game against that sort of attacking lineup that Brazil have, then that could end up even increasing his value even further there. Granted, I don't think he's actually having the best tournament at the World Cup just now, Juranovic, but getting into the quarterfinals, it's a nice thing to be able to put in your resume. So, if you're looking 10, 15 million possibly coming in, possibly more than that, if things were to go extremely well and an English club comes in, you never know what sort of inflated fee you might get. Then you have to question, is a £4.5 million player coming in, £4.5 million player coming in, going to be the best that Celtic can do, or should they have been pushing the bar even higher for somebody, of a bit more stature, perhaps, and really trying to push the boat out? Because what they tend to do very well, Celtic, is they always get good money for their good players. It's very rare in recent years that Celtic have probably undersold somebody, Russell, I would say, and not felt you've got good value for money on somebody we've sold. But certainly on the other side of it, and when you flip it, they don't actually tend to actually get as much money in for the players. They won't be willing to actually spend the money that they get for the likes of a Kieran Tierney or an Odds on Edward. Instead, they'll go back to their £3 or £4 million signings, and this looks a very similar situation. This looks a very similar situation.
Feels like we've been conditioned though, like with all this shite, Jonathan. Do you know what I mean? It feels like, as a Celtic fans, we smirk and we laugh whenever there's a Rangers player linked with a move, and we go, he'll not get that for him. And then when any of our players, we seem to get the value straight away. We're like, oh yeah, we'll get 15 million for him, we'll get 20 million for him. Then when it comes to us buying players, I feel that even some of our fans have now been conditioned to go, oh no, we can't afford that. Oh no, what do you mean? Over £6 million? Oh, no. Yet we always seem to be, when it's one of our own players play well for 5 months, oh yeah, he's the next £20 million player. It's funny that, and that's exactly what the club want you to be conditioned to feel as well, by the way. They
Yeah,
want
oh
you
no,
to feel
definitely.
like, oh, you already like. I remember even towards the end of last season, we were talking about, you've been so many tweets and things like this saying, oh, Hatate looks a 15 to 20 million pound player. All right, it's like we're lining up to sell them. You know what? We're obsessed. We're talking about these valuations straight away. And then when it comes to spending money, everyone seems to shit the bed and go, oh, we can't go bust though. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen either. I mean, we would really need to drive the bus, if you will, off a cliff for us to go bust anytime soon, Jonathan. I mean, they would need to be
Yeah.
absolutely wild with the spending that they did for us to go bust, and no one's clamoring for that whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, Alistair Johnston's just been at the World Cup, so they picked the timing of that announcement really well because he's fresh in the memory. People have seen him there. The rumours were allowed to go to circulate during the World Cup. Obviously, the deal was done, Jonathan. Do you know what I mean? The deal was obviously done
Yeah.
prior to the World Cup for him. And that's good PR. And I don't mind that, provided we're not getting sold at the Swanee a wee bit, and that actually, in actual fact, Juranovic is going to go for, let's say, what his fanboys want, over £15 million, Jonathan, because that would mean we're spending a fraction of that to replace him. And I don't know, maybe that's because Alistair Johnson is a once-in-a-generation talent available at that price. Time will tell on that, and I'm all for that, by the way, Alistair, and I hope that you are, sincerely. But naturally, it'll lead to people, if we do get a lot of good money for Juranovic, saying, whoa, wait now. How come we're back to spending £3.5 million? Only £1 million more than we spent for Juranovic, but when we sold Juranovic, we got 4 or 5 times what we paid for him. But yet we're only now spending £1 million more than what we spent Juranovic. That's progress, I suppose, but extremely slow progress, and undeniably shows more millions being banked and not reinvested in a like-for-like suitable replacement. So it'll be interesting how we view the window. Like I always say, it's not always about fees either, because the valuation of a player is very much beauty lies in the eye of the beholder, Jonathan, and all that. So if Ange values a player at £3.5 million and Celtic are willing to go, yeah, we back your valuation, Ange, that's fine, then everyone's happy. You just hope that Ange has got his first target, for right back, and it was Alistair Johnston. Judging by how early it was, that's all good. That's all good, because you would think that must have been one high up in his list of targets if we get the deal done that early, because it's not signing a player at the start of December, Jonathan, to replace a departing Juranovic. He's got 4 weeks till the window opens. So if it's been announced that early, that would suggest he's got in Alistair Johnston someone pretty high in his shopping list, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would say so. I think the one thing we can take comfort in is, as much as we might think those who hold the purse strings are like Tam from Still Game and are reluctant to pass over any coins, I think when it comes to Ange Postecoglou, he provides a bit of relief from a Celtic point of view, that he does so well with his planning in advance of these windows that he already has a list. And I think Ange Postecoglou is fully aware of the budgets that he's working within, if indeed they have been set to him, that we are not going to be spending whatever the £10 million on players. If we were to say get 15 for Juranovic, and the board have already told him something like that, I think Ange Postecoglou we're probably lucky in the sense he'd be able to adapt to that. Whilst it's not helping the club grow as much as we would like, I think we are in a beneficial position in that Ange Postecoglou has an eye for a player and has proven thus far that he can find good players in untapped markets for Celtic at the sort of budget level that the board likes, and he's ticking really all of the boxes in terms of what we need as a squad to win things domestically, and also ticking the boxes with the board to stay within the budgets that they're setting out to him as well. So I think we're in a very fortunate position with the manager we have. If we didn't have Ange Postecoglou, though, Russell, and we were, having a different manager in whose market was perhaps more down south, where fees are more inflated, this could have been a lot more of a problem. I think we're in a position where we're quite fortunate that we've got Postecoglou in at the moment, and he's able to source these markets that we don't really go into very often. I can't remember if we've ever had a Canadian player for Celtic before. And even when you're looking at the Asian links, I mean, there might well be. I'm sure Phil will come on and pop one.
Dominic Chervy, was he one? The
Dominic
goalkeeper?
Chervy. I'm not sure he
I think he
was.
might have been Canadian Italian.
I think he was Italian. I think on Football Manager, from my recollections, I
If I
think he
got
was
him being
Italian.
half Canadian in my head, I could be wrong.
I'm sure when Phil comes on later on, he'll correct us and tell us there's
Phil's
about
in
10
the chat.
Canadians.
Phil is there.
Yeah, he'll probably turn around and tell us a question today. Name all the Celtic Canadians that have played since the club was formed or something. There's probably like 25 of them. But as far as I can remember, I can't remember Celtic having a Canadian player. They certainly haven't had many, if they have had one. And it goes the same even with the Asian markets, whilst they have been a bit more proactive in them in the past. It's not a market that, in recent years before Postecoglou came in, we've really tapped into much, and certainly not bringing Asian players in directly from the J League. Quite often when we've brought in players, they've already been playing in Europe. So, as I say, I think we're very fortunate with the position we're in. I think the way we're set up is wrong in terms of how we go about with the budget, etc. However, because of the fact we've got a manager who can make it work, we're getting away with it in some ways, and that's probably where I stand with it just now.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. Jonathan William Kennedy comes in. He says, a price tag only puts pressure on a player. Well, I mean, if they're of a certain quality, William, they'll just need to deal with that, and that's what good players do. Do you want a flow price tag and player at Celtic, Bhoycie? I think this really gets to the nitty-gritty. And thank you for being on the bus, William, by the way, and I hope you are good, mate. But let's get real. And I think this, to me, shows, Jonathan, exactly how well Celtic have conditioned supporters. Because William there is quoting to you a player Rangers spent £12 million on 22 years ago, and still talking about it now like it is a far cry from what we should be able to spend. It's the wildest example out there is Flo. 22 years ago. If Celtic signed a player for Rangers transfer record 22 years ago, I would not blink an eye. I'd be delighted, yes, because that would be exciting, but I would not be worried about the financial future of the club. And if the player came with such a price tag, I would be more than confident, William, they'd be able to handle the expectation and the pressure that comes with it. Well, let's be honest, £12 million doesn't guarantee you all that much in the modern day in some leagues, although I would trust Big Ange with £12 million on a player, Jonathan, for them to be pretty good. But I think that highlights the problem, William, for me. When we're talking about 22 years ago players as examples, we need to get away from that, mate. We need to move on. We need to catch up with modern day football, not keep looking back, not always comparing yourself with such low bars, Jonathan. This is what drives me mad. And I don't mean William here. I just mean in general, like at times we talk about going bust, Jonathan, if we spend money, and I'm like, it's not as bad as the 90s having Peter Lawwell back and things. And I'm like, these are such low bars you're setting that of course it's not as bad as that. Do you know what I mean? Like, we'll talk that time when Rangers won 9 in a row. Of course it's not. No, saying it's as bad as that. How about we've not won a European match, European match in 18 years? Is that acceptable? Well, no, it's not. In the same token. So we need to be a wee bit ambitious at times. And I think we should be using our own bars for success, not the lowest bars from years gone by in terrible Celtic periods or Rangers going bust as being, that could happen to us. What about looking at Club Brugge, looking at Ajax, Jonathan, and things like that and going, that could be us too. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm far more inclined to look that way. And I think Ange is very much on Team Boyce on that one, Jonathan. I think so. But Ange Postecoglou, one of his boys, were out there scoring today at the World Cup. I was delighted for Daisen Maeda. He could have had a couple before it. I mean, there's one header, it's like he's ducked it. If he makes contact, I think he scores. He had one, he'd done a brilliant bit of movement. They analysed it at half time, and I think they were really happy with it. They were sort of saying how clever his movement was, and it was brilliant. Then he slides in, he can't get his toe on the ball. I don't actually know how. Looked very, very reminiscent of him in a Celtic shirt, I'd have to say. But I was thrilled when he got his goal, Jonathan. And I have to say I was disappointed that they went out. He was in tears at the end, Daisen Maeda. I just wonder if Ange will be reevaluating where Maeda plays or if Ange just doesn't pay much attention to these things. So what if he plays through the middle for Japan? Ange has made his mind up that he's going to be playing out wide for Celtic. I think it takes a lot to sway Ange Postecoglou's mind on much, so maybe not. But yeah, it was weird. There was so much of his performance to admire today, Maida, and so much of it to roll your eyes at and go, oh yeah, I've seen that movie before.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Maida, it's interesting, obviously, because he plays through the middle for Japan. I think that was actually where he was playing predominantly before he came to us as well, Maida. He was playing through the middle. I think the problem he has is that when he's been put through the middle with us, he's not looked anywhere close to the same sort of level as a Kyogo or a Giakoumakis give you, not anywhere near. And in some ways, I think even a Badawin, he's had spells playing there last season, I think looked a bit more likely to bag goals than Maida did. He just looks quite unorthodox when he gets into these positions. He can have some really good moments, and you're thinking, yeah, that looks quite good. And then his finishing is just so scruffy. It's almost as if he doesn't really believe he's going to score half the time, and that's kind of the.
It's a lack of belief.
I think that's the biggest problem with him when he's, playing through the middle. Is you need somebody that knows their way to the back of the net and backs himself massively, and isn't going to get put off if they have one or two misses. Whereas I think his confidence, he's very much a confidence player, and I think his confidence took a bit of a dent. I think he was struggling a wee bit even before the World Cup. I think he was badly in need of some goals. I think the one at Fir Park probably helped him a bit because he took that one really well. So there is glimpses of it there in a Celtic shirt. They've just been a bit more fleeting than I think the fans would have liked. I think if you're talking about where Postecoglou sees him playing, I think he's made up his mind. I think he's going to be a winger for us. I can't see him deciding now to put him through the middle because of the better options we have there, and because he's given Maida a chance there. It's not as if he's put him out wide and not tried him through the middle when he has had injuries and not having the likes of Giakoumakis and Kyogo available. It just hasn't really worked when he's been put through the middle in a Celtic jersey. I think for Maida as well, I think he probably suits playing more in that sort of role, perhaps with a Japan, because in a lot of games, particularly at this World Cup, Japan were the underdogs, and that means you're not going to have as much of the ball. And as we've seen in the Champions League games, why Maida played in quite a lot of them was because of what he brings you off the ball. And I think, when it comes to that side of the game, Maida's as good as anyone at Celtic at doing the press and harassing opponents. And I think, having that as your focal point when you're a team at Japan is a big thing. And he's had success doing that there. But I think obviously with Celtic, it's a totally different kettle of fish, domestic football, because the onus is on the players to get on the ball and make something happen, not to chase the game down. So that's why I think he'll play him out wide when he comes back to the club. But it'll be interesting, Russell. He has had a pretty solid World Cup, Mike. You could possibly argue he's had the best World Cup out of all the players that have been away. I think he scored twice in this tournament. Does this help him get more of an opportunity in the club? Do you think Ange Postecoglou's been watching and taking note? Do you think there's been any surprises there for Postecoglou? Because Maida does come in and out the team a lot. Could you see that helping him cement a place back in the starting 11 for Pittodrie when we are restarting the league up?
It's hard to say. Again, I think Ange is one of these unshakable forces. I think when he makes his own mind up, it's based solely, I should say, on how he's viewing it from his lens. I don't think he is one to get carried away by other events that he can't influence or impact. He doesn't know what the team instructions were that Maida was following. He's not privy to any of that information, so he can only go by, his guidance and where he views Maida and what role and his formula, his formation. And I just don't know how much influence it would have on Ange. As we were alluding to at the top of the show, Jonathan, Ange doesn't really pay much attention elsewhere, does he? Because
No.
He was asked by our media recently about the appointment of Mickey, as he's now known, Mickey Beale. And he very, very cuttingly decided to remind them that he couldn't essentially give a monkeys, mate. And that, his dinner was higher up in the priority list that night than whether Rangers had appointed a new manager. That's now getting viewed as disrespectful and all that nonsense. I don't see it as that. I think it's Ange just trying to remind people that he's keeping up the same narrative as he did last year when we were behind in the title race, and he was talking about neighbours' walls and all that sort of stuff, and he was focusing very much on what he was building rather than looking over the fence at what the neighbours were building. So I think he stuck to his exact same principle. He's just worded it in a funny way because that's what he tends to do with reporters, as if I'm getting cheekier with the replies because you're asking me questions you already know the answer to. So that was just a wee bit of humour involved there. I don't think he was being particularly disrespectful, albeit he was probably also very much aware that it was going to get that round of applause and laughter from his own supporters as well.
Yeah, he's had the media on strings since the moment he's been in. And Postecoglou, it's one thing he has done exceedingly well, along with so many others. But if you were to pick one of his many talents, his media handling might just be top of the list. And I think you're right. I don't think he's meant it in a disrespectful way at all. The message is quite clear from what Postecoglou is trying to get across there, is that his focus is purely on Celtic, as it has been from day one. He's refused to get involved with whatever's been going on at any other club, not just Rangers, but when he gets asked for opinions on any other club, he's not interested in having those conversations particularly much. And I think for Postecoglou, he's looking at it and he's thinking, well, if I've got my own team and I've got my own ideas and I want to take this team on a journey, then he'd rather just spend his time talking about that. And the reporters, have that opportunity to question him as much as they want on Celtic Football Club. He's not going to be overly interested in what's going on at Rangers. And, it would have made no difference whether Celtic were 9 points ahead in this title race at this moment in time, whether we're 9 points behind. Postecoglou's message would have been exactly the same. I think he's also came in and actually, gave a stark reminder to the media as well that Van Bronckhorst's record was actually quite good. I think that was the only thing he did happen to say about, he did happen to mention that when he was asked about the Beale appointment, he did give them a reminder, and it was almost a bit of a shot in the arm for Celtic in a backhanded sort of way, because he's clever that way. And in fact, he said that Van Bronckhorst had done pretty well, winning the Scottish Cup, getting them to a European final. But then you've also got to remember Celtic were the ones who came out trumps in the league. So I think there was a little bit of psychology in play there from Ange. But I think he's also highlighting the fact that, if Van Bronckhorst takes Rangers to a European final, it's probably unlikely that Beale will match that achievement. I think those days are over for Rangers now, because they're going to have to rebuild the whole squad. Then I think, if you're looking at it now, I think he makes good points about the fact that Van Bronckhorst was a good manager to go up against. I think from Ange's point of view, he'll be thinking, well, if I keep focusing on what I'm doing, Gerrard decided to pack his bags and head down south before things got a bit nasty for him. And now he's seen off Van Bronckhorst, a man who took them to a European final and didn't do an awful lot wrong, by the way. He just came up against a far better Celtic team.
Am I right in thinking as well he quoted the fact he'd been very successful in Holland as well? So he was very much talking up, who the rival is he conquered, I think, as well. It was great. It was clever what he was saying. It was definitely, there was some sort of backhanded compliment to his own achievements, I think, that he was getting in. And I don't mind that, by the way. I think he's absolutely right to do that, because his achievements last year, let's not, have them now getting muddied into. I think this is what he's doing, is going, let's not have this that he presided over a disastrous reign here. No, and it was Rangers being poor that we won the league last year. I think is what Ange's, subtly or not unsubtly for us, Jonathan, sort of reminding people. I think he's saying, that was tough what we were up against there, and we, that was a team that was a European finalist, won a cup, had a manager there who'd won a league in Holland, and I beat them. I think that's what he's telling you. I think there's always a bit Mourinho-esque, Jonathan, a wee reminder like that. I don't mind that at all. And I think he was absolutely quite right. But yeah, I mean, I think if people want to get caught up in Ange being disrespectful and things like that, then I think that, they're chasing headlines that don't exist. I think we've got a manager in situ, Jonathan, who plays the media like a fiddle. I find it very refreshing. I think often, I've said this before, that his ding-dongs, particularly last season, the likes of Kenny McIntyre, I think were very similar to what Neil Lennon's were. Neil Lennon's, the problem was, weren't delivered with wit, but were delivered with emotion.
Aggression.
And aggression. Yes, emotion and aggression. But I actually think they were both kind of on message, quite a lot. I think Ange's, sometimes, well, it wasn't a good performance, depends what team you wanted to win, mate, and things like that, Yeah. Brendan had said that. He'd just worded it as, "You wanted the other team to win, though, you bastard." So it was a car crash. So, yeah, that was the difference. But I think they probably have quite similar points, or quite similar takes on it. I just think Angie's delivery is masterful, Jonathan, and I think anyone chasing headlines about it don't make any sense to me. Anyone else to cover before we get Phil McGinley on? He's not in the
Well,
background
no, that's okay. I mean, but with Andrew, it'll be interesting to see if he actually ends up getting questioned on that, Russell, about this disrespectful narrative whenever he does his next presser, because I'll be intrigued to see what sort of response he gives to that, because I bet your bottom dollar he's probably already got his answer pre-prepared, because it's almost certain that it'll be a question that one of the mugs will end up asking him. And, Ange Postecoglou doesn't miss when it comes to the media on things like this. I think he's about as well prepared for the Scottish media as he is for a January transfer window at Celtic, if not more so. So I think when he looks at this, he'll be thinking, oh, come on, if somebody's going to try and say he's being disrespectful, he's going to be having absolutely none of it. And as I say, it goes back to the point that he's just looking after Celtic and he's looking after the club's best interests. And, I just think he can't be bothered with the media. The media's like a fly that he just wants to swat every time. They're just going to buzz around his ear and they just annoy him most of the time. I think in some ways he almost sounds disappointed quite often. We've seen this season with the questions that he's getting asked by them. And it just feels as if he's not really having to think too much about the answers he's given. So, Brown Warrior coming in with a good one. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to what Ange would prefer in his steak, Russell. I'm not entirely sure. Peppercorn sauce fan, do you think?
I don't know, but I definitely think he eats it blue. Right, we'll get Phil McGinley on. We'll do some sudden death, Jonathan. This is really you in last chance saloon now, though, mate. If it goes 7-2, there's no catching me. I'm telling you. But I'll go into the second half of the season like Celtic with a points gap that big. So welcome aboard the bus, Phil McGinley. Loving the top, mate. How are you?
I'm good, lads. I had to be Brazil tonight after that rip-roaring performance. That was superb. And the scary bit is, I think they've got a few more gears to go up. I don't know if you saw the best of them tonight. They were phenomenal. So. Yeah, I had to be Brazil. Had to be. Yeah, how are you guys doing, though? How are you? Are you ready for this?
Born ready.
Ready as I'll ever be. Pride is now at stake. I feel like one of these Korean players that's just getting lacerated around the pitch tonight. So it's about time I showed my teeth again, I think.
Indeed. So, it is that time again on a Monday night. It is a sudden death. The Boyce Brothers about to engage in another intense battle, another penalty shootout for the ages. Of course, I've got a question lined up. It is a Celtic-related question as well tonight. No curveballs. I've got a whole series of answers. Obviously, the right answer, they score a goal. And if they get a wrong answer, they miss. They've got 5 shots each. And, of course, we will go to a maximum of 10 guesses, so I'm not keeping you here all night. But, at the moment, as Russell did say, the score is heavily in his favour at the moment. So, Jonathan, you need this, mate. You need this. So, hold on. We'll just get all the aesthetics done and all that, the background and whatnot. You get the studio. We're in the studio now.
Ooh.
And, of course, I'll have to cue the music.
Ooh. Just got serious in here.
Yes, indeed. So, Russell, I know the answer already, but mandatory question. You first or second, because you won last week?
I will go first, Phil, and the comment. Off. Sitting down there. I know you need all the help you can get.
My comments are off. My comments were not on. So, yeah. Already prepared.
Good stuff. Okay, so tonight's question has a very nice 16 answers. It's not too bad. And it relates to the unsung hero because it's all about defenders scoring goals, in particular defenders scoring against our old enemy across the city, old version and the new version. So the date range for this one goes back to the 98-99 season when the SPL branding first began. So that's how far back we're going. I am looking for any Celtic defender who scored in a game against Rangers, and this also includes cup games as well, league or cup games. There are 16 correct answers, gentlemen. Russell.
Okay.
Lee Naylor.
Lee Naylor is indeed correct.
That's a cracker to start with. Naylor, bloody hell. I shall go Bobo Balde.
Yeah, Bobo Balde. He is indeed a correct answer.
Mark Wilson.
Mark Wilson.
Not
R.I.P. Santa Pafic.
Buy one, get one
Yeah.
free. That's what that was.
I remember watching that in the pub. It was a split pub with Celtic and Rangers fans. It was a good one, that, up at the Old Med. I shall go Stanislav Varga.
Yes, indeed. Stan Varga. Correct answer.
Oh. El Kaduri.
Oh, very good.
Badr El Kaduri is indeed correct. Yeah.
I shall go with the one that people forget because it was the Fraser Foster Cup final, but Christopher Jullien.
Yes, indeed. Christopher Jullien ties it at 3 apiece.
I will go for another one that can be forgotten because we lost the penalty shootout. Eric Sviatchenko.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Remembering things from the other week. Very good, Russell.
Eric Sviatchenko, correct indeed. Yep.
I will go for a cup game that we actually won, Russell, and I will throw in Darren O'Dea.
Darren O'Dea, correct. Yes, indeed.
Now I'm in trouble. Now I'm in trouble. I can't think. And it was from 98-99 season, did you say?
Yeah, that's the first season that became the SPL, and then yeah, that's where it went from.
I don't think I've got one here. I'm going to say Johan Mjällby, but I can't picture the goal. I'm guessing.
Johan Mjällby is incorrect. Jonathan is in a position to win.
He's won! He's won!
Oh, I'm going to win as well, and I'll tell you the exact game. The last ever Old Firm derby for some Charlie Mulgrew.
Charlie Mulgrew with that diving header, 3-0
Cameron
is
Carter
indeed
Vickers as
correct.
well.
Jonathan pulls it back to 6-3, as Russell said at the start there. This is last chance saloon, and Jonathan, he has came through on that one. He took that last chance. He took
Yes,
it.
thank goodness for that. Thank
Cool.
goodness for that. Back in the
someone's
game.
saying there as well.
Yeah,
Boyata,
and the 5-1 game.
I
of
can give you the
course.
answers, guys, that you've missed, Russell.
on.
So obviously it's the 98-99 season. Now, the season before that, Alan Stubbs scored a very crucial goal, but seeing the 98-99 season, the first one,
He scored
he
again
scored
at
a brilliant
Ibrox,
goal at Ibrox, bent it in.
I
with
I
a
was
right-
going to guess Stubbs.
Brilliant. Now, Russell, Martin the Neil leader, Use Valharen.
Yeah, it was Valharen or Mjällby, and I couldn't see either goal. I couldn't see either goal, and I was like, I'll go Mjällby, but yeah, I should have said Valharen. Damn.
Man. Thomas Rogner scored a goal against them.
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Dedrick Boyata.
Did he score? And I can't even remember.
We lost
Robbie
3-2.
scored.
We had a chance to win the league in 2012 at Ibrox. And
At the end, yes,
and we
I
won
remember
at
it. Yeah.
Quickie Park. Yeah, Dedrick Boyata's won, and from the same game, Mikael Lustig.
Oh, Stig.
Lustig. I trust you'll enjoy that one tonight. And Cameron Carter Vickers. I heard that name getting mentioned there. Yep.
Yeah,
And obviously last season, the cup game that we lost, Greg Taylor, he went down as his goal, even though it kind of deflected off Joe Aribo quite massively, but yeah, it did go down as Taylor's goal. But yeah, Jonathan, back in it, mate. You're back in the room, mate. Well done.
You need
Back in the room. Yeah, I needed that big time. The game's back on. Feeling more confident now.
There we go.
Very good. Well, what we'll do is we will wrap it there. It's a wee bit of a shorter show. It's just because let's be honest, it's been a long time since Celtic last played. We're going round the block. We've got content from yesterday as well, which I'm not wanting to cross over the debates too much, albeit I'm going to send over the files to David to try and mix them. I've not got a clue what I'm doing. I've lost a day of my life trying to get the video editing done. It was great fun at the studio all the same, but how I'm going to get the vocal and the video combined over these, I really don't know how I'm going to do it, because the times don't work out, in my opinion. But anyway, we'll try our best for that, because there was a really good discussion had at the table between four of us. Young Regan joined us, as well as David Logue, and then there was obviously me and yourself, Phil. I did a wee chat as well on a different stream. I've got the audio for that. Fine, I might just put that out as a podcast. 4K camera. Wow, fucking hell! I felt old when I looked back at myself on that.
Oh my, I need to see this, man. That sounds
4K camera. Oh, I think I'll stick to whatever this is, 720 or something. That'll do me nicely.
You'll get a filter on it, surely, Russell.
I think that'll be the next thing. If I can't even get the vocals though, Jonathan, mixed with the actual video format, then I don't know how I'm going to add filters on it as well. But I'll find a way. We'll find a way. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that has been the Monday Club. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully, keep your eye out. Get that bell hit, because there will be content from the studio hopefully going up, tomorrow, if possible. And we'll have other shows this week. I don't know if we'll do a breakfast bar this week. We'll wait till next week once we're back in the thick of action coming up. There'll be a TNF, of course, this week. There's Bustalgia on Friday, Phil. Where are we going?
We're going to Brazil. We're going to World Cup 2014. That totally wasn't planned, by the way. This just happened to work well. Yeah, we're going to World Cup 2014. As I said last week, Ange Postecoglou obviously is there. It was the first time he ever would have registered on our subconscious, maybe, so we can talk about our impressions of that Australia team. And obviously, that is the World Cup where Brazil got absolutely lettered 7-1 by Germany. Surreal game of football. So I'm actually looking forward to really talking about that one, because that's one of my favourite World Cups. Thoroughly enjoyed 2014.
Sound, mate. I'll join you for that one Friday. Why not?
Nice.
Right, okay. That has been the Monday Club. Thank you for watching. Everyone have a good week. Don't work too hard and all that. Carry on. See you later.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.